Hello and welcome to Ball Around the Head. And this time I'm joined with just Ben. Andrew will be back, don't worry. But for this episode, just me and Ben. And we're going to discuss basically the whole entire 2019-2020 NBA season. So we've been gone for about 2.5 weeks, and surprisingly, there's been a lot of moves, and we'll get to those moves later on. But right now, we're just going to discuss the weird season that was the 2019-2020 season. And my first question would be what felt the weirdest about this season, Ben?
Well, a lot of things felt weird, but for me, the weirdest was not having home court in the playoffs. I didn't notice it that much in the regular season in the seeding games, but in the playoffs, I'm used to like after a game in the post game interviews, people always saying we got to get a split if they're on a road, or we got to take care of business at home, and that entire dialogue was just not present this playoffs. What about you?
I think the obvious answer is that in the playoffs, I think for most of our lives, we've kind of underestimated the importance of fans. I definitely feel that with fans, some of the results would have been different in some rounds. I think the Lakers probably would have still won the championship. I feel like, I don't know, Toronto's a pretty loud place. They get into it over there. I feel like maybe a couple rounds could have been a little different. But non obvious thing for me, I have just that the Clippers and Milwaukee didn't even make the conference finals. I feel like that's something that was set in stone. Some even had them in the NBA finals, but none of them even made the conference finals. And I felt that, and the Milwaukee had one of the best NBA seasons of all time statistically, and they just got pounced out of the second round, and Los Angeles blew a 3-1 lead, and it's just something. If you told me at the beginning of the year, just definitely wouldn't have believed you because they were supposed to win the championship. So I feel like that was the weirdest moment for me during this season.
Yeah.
So the Miami Heat made it to the NBA Finals, and that surprised a lot of people. But a lot of other teams did well. The Grizzlies, the Mavericks, that most people did not think. So Ben, in your opinion, which team surprised you the most?
So I was thinking about going with the Thunder because they definitely surprised me, but I'm going to take this the other direction and say that the team that surprised me the most was the Warriors.
Ooh.
And I know that Steph got injured, and obviously they're not going to be as good, but it really shocked me that they were the worst team in basketball coming off their dynasty where they made the finals just last year. Their over-under going into the season was 47.5 wins, and they finished with 15. And that pretty much, we already knew that Clay was injured and that Durant had left. The only thing we didn't know was that Steph was going to get injured. And so I honestly suspected more from Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins. Like, I feel like that's good enough to be not the worst team in basketball.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that Steph Curry was really good enough to lead them to at least an 8th seed. They thought to make the playoffs. Draymond Green's that glue guy, and Wiggins was acquired halfway. And halfway through the season, they just fielded a bunch of G League players, like literally G League players. That's what their team consisted of for a good couple of weeks. So I like that point you made, and I wrote an article on Peach Basket last year saying, and I had like the Warriors top 5 in my power rankings because I thought that they were going to surprise a lot of people because even before KD, they were a very good team. So that was a good choice. I'm just going to take the easy route here. I feel like it's Miami. In that same article, I had Miami in the middle pack. Like they're good, but just whatever. There's no chance to make it to the NBA Finals. Just never a thought in my mind. And given the circumstances, some obviously will consider an asterisk. And as I mentioned earlier, some would think with home court, maybe Miami gets pounced in the second round. Who knows? But that's not what happened. Miami went all the way to the NBA Finals. And technically speaking, we're 2 games away from winning the NBA Finals. So I feel like the obvious choice here would be Miami. I don't feel like at the beginning of the year, a lot of people had them winning. And if you said you did, you're lying. But I actually like that choice for Golden State as well. I totally didn't think of them. And the Thunder, as you mentioned, are a very good choice that none of us mentioned. I feel like the Thunder should have won the first round. A good last position, they probably would have beat Houston. But now it looks like they're heading towards a whole blow up, which sucks. But yeah. So we're gonna shorten our thing. I used the wrong words. Connor, you can edit that one out. We're gonna go to which player surprised you the most. I'm gonna go first on this one, and I'm gonna go with Luka Doncic, and I'm gonna explain this because I knew Luka was gonna be good. I knew he's gonna be. He had first year he averaged like 20 points. I knew he's gonna be a superstar, but he. Well, let me say the first year he had averaged 21 points. The second year he averaged 28 points per games, and as I mentioned, I believe in many other streams, the first couple of weeks he was literally an MVP candidate, and then he hurt his ankle, and then he just fell all the way down the ladder. But he had 28 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, almost averaged a triple double. Uh, in the playoffs, he was phenomenal. He had insane numbers. He almost carried a team without their second best player, past who most thought would be the NBA champions. And I think that. So my reasoning behind this is that I knew he'd be good, but I didn't think he'd be good in his second season, almost winning an MVP award. Who do you have?
Yeah, that's a great choice. I've got bubble TJ Warren. Like TJ Warren was not on my radar at all. Like in the regular season before the bubble, he was averaging 18.7 points, 4 rebounds, 53% from the field, 38% from three. I didn't even know he was doing that well, to be honest. And then in the bubble, he won the bubble MVP, jumped to 34.8 points, 6.6 rebounds, 61% from the field, and 56% from three. And I remember hearing Jalen Rose say that he got traded from Phoenix for cash considerations to the Pacers. So your bubble MVP was traded for nothing. So he surprised me the most.
Phoenix dropped him because they didn't want to pay him. And he's always been a scorer in his career, not really the best defender, but he's always just been there to put up points, and that's exactly what he did. So, yeah, again, I agree with that choice. I feel like, as you mentioned, no one would have thought going into the bubble, people would say, oh, by the way, what if I told you if TJ Warren would win the MVP of the bubble and he averaged the most points in the bubble? And I don't think anyone would really believe you. Like, he's a scorer, I get that, but no one thought he would take that big leap.
I mean, I think past his prime too, most people thought.
Yeah, that's very true. So Laker fan here, not me, him. This question's kind of designed for you, but this NBA season actually had a lot of good moments. Unfortunately, it was shortened and then recontinued later on, but it was a really good season basketball-wise because we didn't have super teams and it was just good basketball. So what was your favorite moment from the season besides the Lakers winning the championship?
My favorite moment was quarter 4 of the All-Star game. It was played in honor of Kobe and Gianna Bryant. May they rest in peace. And it was just a great All-Star game, the best All-Star game ever. And I know a lot of people agree with me on that.
Yeah.
You know, Team LeBron won the first quarter. Team Giannis won the second quarter. They tied the third quarter, and then all the stakes were on in the fourth quarter. First team to hit that mark, and you just saw teams actually playing defense, which you never see in an All-Star game.
Yeah,
because they have a lot of motivation. I mean, not just Kobe, but the charities, I think, added to it a lot, and it's something that's replicable that the league could do again going forward, which I hope they do because I want to see more basketball like that in the All-Star game.
Yeah. Obviously, with every rule change, there's a bunch of people who just question it and question if it's good for the game. But I feel like obviously when that one came out, people were just like, why are you ruining the All-Star game? Just have it the way it is. No one really cares about it. But I know, as you mentioned, I know for a fact everyone was on the edge of their seats at the end of the game. But unfortunately, that game ended in a free throw, which no one ever wants to see. But it was still just a really good, it felt like a playoff game technically. And thankfully there's fans there, so we could feel that. My favorite moment, I had two choices. One is just a period of time, and one's just like a moment. My period of time will have to be the bubble Suns. Yes. Speaking of TJ Warren being unpredictable, that is completely unpredictable. Some people, including yours truly, thought they shouldn't even have been in the bubble in the first place. They shouldn't have never got an invitation. It was nearly impossible for them to make the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs, which is why, again, I didn't.
I tell you what, if they did make the playoffs, I would have picked them. I was rooting for them. I think everyone was.
They were riding momentum. So, sorry. But that's my thing. I've always thought Monty Williams was a very, very good coach. very underrated. So when he hired him, I know for a fact that at the time I was like, all right, this is a great coach. Like Devin Booker is one of the most underrated players in the league. He's a superstar, though many may not see it because he's on a bad team, but he truly is. He showed in the bubble as well. He had that good game winner against the Clippers. And my favorite moment, as in one play in particular I have, was when Ja Morant dunked over Aaron Baines. And it's like, there's a bunch of moments from Ja Morant's rookie season where he did a bunch of crazy things, and people were worried about it because the way he landed isn't pretty, and it could like really end horribly. But that Aaron Baines dunk, and I wish I could show it, but I can't, was absolutely insane. If you know, you know. But yeah, Leo, real quick. Andrew is busy doing something else. He will be back for future streams, however. But yes, thank you for being in the comment section. So yeah, those are my two favorite moments throughout the season. So there's been a lot of speculation recently that the NBA season will begin on December 22nd. Free agency will start 2 days after the draft, which the draft is November 18th. But some reports came out these past few days that LeBron and other fellow superstars are not happy with the league going that quick. So if the NBA gets what they want, Ben, what effects do you think the short offseason will have on bubble teams?
It's going to have a huge effect. I think it's last offseason lasted 131 days from the end of the finals. And if that December 22nd date gets accepted, if it actually comes to pass, then this would be a 72-day off season, almost half as much time. That's not enough time for these guys the veterans, really. I mean, we're talking about the veterans when we say we're concerned about people getting their rest. It's not enough time for where they want to be. For LeBron, like LeBron, for example, you heard Danny Green say that he doesn't expect LeBron to play in the first month if that date is correct. And considering something else, you might think we would see less improvement from guys who are on the come up, stepping up their game, like Luka Doncic, Tyler Hero. But those guys already made a leap in between. They had like a mini off season. So I think it's not really going to hurt their development. We'll still see guys make that leap. We'll still see just as many most improved candidates, if that makes sense. So I'm not worried about that part, but I think it's going to affect veteran guys more so.
I think that this will lead to a lot more load management because I'm pretty sure if they do play, LeBron will play, but probably when he wants to. I don't think he's going to take a month off. He'll play a game. He'll play the first game to get his ring, and then he'll have a game every now and then for the first month, and then he'll get into a groove, and then probably for playoff time, he'll start playing every game for the month or whatever. But I feel like a lot of teams, like especially the Clippers, will do a lot of load management. I just feel like you'll see a lot of that. But I do think the basketball could be a lot more sharper with the shorter offseason because they just started playing. And I feel like, unlike training camps, you just like have to wait and see like, oh, is this team going to come out hot? A brand new team. I just feel like this would be better basketball, especially for the teams that have continued playing recently, not the ones that have been gone for almost like 10 months by the time they'd play. Yes, Leo, I see your question. Is this short offseason in any way due to COVID? Yes, it is. I was actually to get to that point. Thank you for bringing that up. The reason that they want it to be quicker is because of revenue money. If they start on December 22nd, I don't remember the exact money, but it's a lot of money, a big difference in money if they start then compared to like January or later date. So that's why the NBA wants to do it sooner. They're trying to get fans in, but obviously the way the world's going, I don't think that's going to happen. But that's their goal. They're going to try to get fans as soon as they can, kind of like the NFL is doing and the MLB did for a couple weeks. But yeah, so this offseason has a lot to do with COVID, and they're trying to get back on track as well to the regular schedule they normally have, the regular offseason. So yeah, thank you for that question. But to that point, I'm not an NBA player, so if I complain, it's just some random podcaster just complaining. But they also had a lot of time off from March to to July, or was it?
That's
It's
true.
March to July or whatever. So they did have time off, and then they're gonna have another 2-ish months off as well. So that's like 5 months off, which is kind of a little longer than a regular off season. So I feel like they already had their time off, and I get the Lakers put all they want up, all their pieces out there. The Heat put all their pieces out there, so they're all tired or whatever. But like every other, I think 2 out of 30 teams isn't really going to change the NBA's mind. I feel like they're going to go with whatever makes them more money, because I mean every business wants more money. Andrew, I see you in the comment section. It's no worries, man. Your spot is over there. Thank you. I appreciate this mic is really cool. It's actually really cheap as well. But yeah, school is always important. You're all good. You're all good. But yeah, so
sure.
we're going to switch that spectrum though, and we're going to talk about the effects this offseason will have on teams that did not play in the bubble. And as I mentioned earlier, that's about like 10-ish months if they go through with the December 22nd date. So Ben, what do you think the effects will be?
So I mentioned that it would be a 72-day offseason for the Heat and the Lakers. The teams that did not make the bubble have not played March 11th. And their offseason would be 286 days.
Oh my god.
Which is almost a full year.
Ben, real quick, Andrew says you look fly as usual.
Thanks, Andrew. Takes one to know one. We almost saw. I'm gonna go into this. We almost saw another bubble in Chicago. For the 8 teams that didn't make the bubble, they almost had their own bubble, but eventually that was rejected. And the reason probably is that these young players, you don't want them not playing competitive basketball for 286 days. Like first and second year guys, like the off season is where they improve. But it's in-game experience is so much more important for those guys. Like they improve during the off season, but in-game experience is especially important for the young guys because they gotta, understand what it's like to be in the NBA. They only played in college. And so you'll see it vary, I think, some guys with the better work ethic who are putting it in at home, which is a lot of people, but you might see some people not develop as much as their teams would like them to.
As painful as it is for fans to watch, when those young players, I don't know, forget how much seconds are on the shot clock, when they lose the tough game, the close game, as much as it hurts the fans, that's perfect for their development. So I agree that it's tough on them to develop when they don't have real game situations to develop on. When they play at a random pickup game doesn't really mean obviously as much as an NBA game where the stakes are high, bonuses are there. I feel like my answer for this, let me see. I feel like they're going to have more rust big time. I feel like there's just going to be first couple weeks, just a bunch of air balls, bricks, just getting used to it. And then obviously like every other NBA team, you'll go through your dry spell, but then you'll start doing well. So I feel like that's what's going to happen. Again, it's kind of the easy answer for both of these. Peace out, Andrew. Appreciate the love. I feel like the easy answer would just be, the teams that return sooner will be more sharp, and the ones that are gone for, 282 days are going to be the ones that aren't really as sharp. And that's the easy answer, but I feel like that's the correct answer in this situation. I feel like in an NBA game where the stakes are always high, you have to be sharp, and this teams haven't played in so long. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be ugly, but we're to get rid of the full NBA talk, and we're just going to what's the word? I missed the word. What's like narrow down to coaches and general managers. And the reason I said general managers is Daryl Morey a couple weeks ago stepped down as the GM of the Houston Rockets, although today it was reported that he is now in charge of every basketball operation with the 76ers. So we're not going to talk about the 76ers yet, but Ben, where does Morey stepping down leave the Rockets? And I'm going to add another question. Do they continue their small ball idea?
So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's pretty much what I was going to talk about because we saw D'Antoni's already gone, and then Moore's gone very shortly after. So you've got the two guys that are really like the faces of Rocket small ball, and you've got this roster that stems from Morey and D'Antoni and that philosophy, and now they're gone. So I think slowly you'll start to see a more, I don't want to say traditional because obviously their owner, is a big believer of the analytical methods. If they were willing to have Morey on for so long, but you might see them tone it down a bit. I mean, right now Tyson Chandler is their only big man. Like
And
they
he's
might
going to be
tone
a
it
free
down.
agent. So technically, they have literally 0 big men on their roster.
Yeah. So I think you can't flip the switch overnight. I mean, you could sign a bunch of centers, but I don't see them doing that. I think they're so deep in the small ball right now that it's just going to slowly come back to a league average, which is already pretty small. I mean, they set the tone. The league isn't
Yeah.
going to go back to being big or anything, but I don't think it's going to be as extreme as we saw this year with PJ Tucker being their center all the time.
Yeah, and to that point, also the person I believe taking over is I think was just like basically his apprentice, however you pronounce that word. I feel like he was already in the organization, so maybe they don't even change it. Maybe there's some analytics out there that show that it's the great way to go. And I'm so done with analytics after watching the World Series last night. If you know, you know. The analytics are ruining the game, but also helping the game. But it's just so bad for the game. But to this point, they hired a new coach today, the Rockets. I hope I pronounced this right, Stephen Silas. But I saw he's a very good. I mean, he led the Mavericks to one of the greatest offenses of all time. I feel like the Rockets need more help on the defensive end. I hope they sign someone like a Nerlens Noel kind of player that they have just for insurance. I'm saying like if they play Anthony Davis basically and they need a big man, maybe for the most games that they don't need big man, maybe put out the small ball lineup. But it showed in the playoffs when you need a guard, a skilled big man, you need a big man. You can try your best and hope that he misses, and that's kind of what happened in that game one. They just hoped and they got the lucky bounce on a lot of shots. But the rest of the 4 games, they got destroyed. And it's because no one could stop AD, and that led to a bunch of other people being open because they double teamed. So I think that they need to get rid of this small ball idea. I think it's a horrible idea. I was a little intrigued this year. I thought it could have potentially worked. But now that I saw it play out this year, it's not working. It will never work. At least now with the big men like AD, Jokic, and all those people, Embiid, it's not going to work. So I feel like the Rockets have this last year to have this core intact, in my opinion. Breaking news on Ball Around the Head. I feel like if they don't go far this offseason, I believe it's probably going to be Harden is gone. They're going to trade him and retool because he's getting old. They're not going to win any championship, in my opinion, anytime soon. The league's getting better. The Nets got healthy. The Warriors got healthy. Lakers are going to go for repeat. The Clippers are going to be hungry. I feel like their time is out. They had the run the past 2-3 years and they never got it. So
I'm sorry. The trash
I feel like Morey and D'Antoni leaving kind of signals that they just don't believe it's going to work. And maybe the end of the Rockets, I think they have the longest postseason streak in the NBA right now. So I feel like that's going to come to the end pretty soon. I just mentioned the Clippers, actually. So let's talk about them. Ty Lue, I believe, signed a 5-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to go on this real quick because I have some feelings about this. I think Ty Lue is I'm going to see if this makes sense to you. Ty Lue is a player coach, not really a good coach. I feel like the players like him as a person, which during the year the Cavaliers won the title. David Blatt wasn't doing a bad job. They just went to the finals the year before in his first season, and then they fired him after being in first place in the East because LeBron wanted Ty Lue, and then Ty Lue led them to a championship. Well, Ty Lue led them to a championship. And then coincidentally, when LeBron left, Ty Lue was fired after like the first 6 games. He went like 1-5. So I think the ownership knew Ty Lue's not a good coach, but LeBron wanted him, so LeBron got him. So maybe because they said Kawhi and Paul George had a say in this coaching thing, so maybe Kawhi didn't like the way Rivers coached, and the ownership also didn't like blowing 3-1 leads and not making it to the conference finals for the past whatever he's been there for like 7 years. So maybe they just said, "All right, put up Ty Lue. I'm gonna," because there's been a lot of weird reports going around that Clippers didn't like Kawhi getting the star treatment. Some
Yeah.
Clipper players thought kind of like the Celtics last year when the whole Kyrie thing, and it just there's just a bunch of those things coming out. Although Clipper players are denying it, who knows with that team? But I feel like the Clippers are going to be a better team because Ty Lue is the coach, but not because he draws up good plays in the huddle. If that makes sense. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that that helps me, that puts it in perspective for me. Because I agree with that he's kind of the guy you get if you want your superstars to coach the team. You saw that work with LeBron. Because my point was, I think it'll be a good fit. I think, he has experience on that roster as an assistant. But what I was going to say is that it's really going to come down to the players. Like, they didn't lose because Doc Rivers was a bad coach. They lost because their stars didn't show up in the playoffs, I think. And so I don't think it's a fix, but now I can see with your point that he's the guy you want if you need your superstars to take leadership. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I hate to bring up baseball and other sports because this is a basketball podcast, but the point I've made for so long is that's just how sports go. Your team struggles, and it's the head coach's fault. Yet, as you mentioned, like Kawhi and Paul George combined for like 5 points in the fourth quarter of a game 7. How is that the coach's fault? They couldn't make a basket. And like the NFL, they can't catch a pass. How is that the coach's fault? It was in their hands. They can't catch it. The MLB, how's it the manager's fault that you couldn't hit the ball? Like it's a thing that's as old as dirt. It's always the manager coach's fault every single time before it's the player's fault. And that's how every single year there's always coaches fired because it's always the coach's fault. If you struggle just because, I don't know, maybe your quarterback's hurt a little bit, maybe your point guard's hurt a little bit, it's the coach's fault always. And I feel like maybe with the way the world's turning and the sports world's turning, maybe one day they'll stop blaming the coaches. Maybe there'll be one sport out there that has all their coaches retained for a year. I don't ever see that happening anytime soon because every coach gets blamed, but that's just something that's been bothering me for so long. It's dumb how coaches get blamed for some things they shouldn't really get blamed for. And as you said, it's not Doc Rivers' fault that the Clippers couldn't close out. Well, to an extent it is, but it's not totally his fault. So
yeah, and I think it's to that point. It's sometimes more about a change of scenery than anything else. It's like, the players, it might give them a sense of confidence. Okay, we have this new guy here, and it's somehow different. So we can make it this year. I think sometimes it's more about that than actually the X's and O's. To that point.
So this head coaching hiring that we're going to talk about next, I know it's made a lot of people scratch their heads. Like, why him? But Stan Van Gundy is now the head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans, and his last stint with the Pistons, it did not go well. But during that stint, he took over some trades and signing responsibility. He doesn't have that here. But most question if Zion and him are a good fit for each other. Ben, what do you think?
I think it'll be fine. A lot of people wanted the Pelicans to go with more of a player-oriented coach. Ty Lue or Jason Kidd were names that were thrown around. But I heard him talk. He had a lot of spare time in the bubble, and I think it's kind of what got him interested in coaching again, because he had a lot of spare time between broadcasting and he was really excited about the Pelicans in particular, and so he thought of a lot of ideas for them. Um, he thinks their defense could be a lot better than it is, and he says he wants to use Lonzo Ball off ball in the half court, which would be a change for as great a passer as he is. But I think he'll figure it out. I think it'll be fine out. I might have gone with a Jason Kidd over him, but I don't think it's a particularly bad fit.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like there were better options out there, but at the same time, and as you mentioned, there was like an article, like an interview, I guess he did earlier, of which he just gushed about how much the Pelicans are a good team, how he thinks they like all that stuff. So I think that that's maybe why the ownership picked him, because he does love the team and loves the top to bottom. And I mean, it's kind of kissing butt, but like it's, that's how you get in. I like your choices, like Jason Kidd, a bunch of the young coaches that aren't proven yet. I feel like they should have gotten a chance. I'm surprised Wes Unseld never got a job. He was heavily involved in a bunch of rumors for the coaching jobs, and he didn't get one of them. I believe all the coaching vacancies are filled right now. I'm pretty sure because the Pacers got a coach. I feel like they're all filled right now. Philly got Doc, so yeah, I think they're done. So yeah, it sucks for Unseld. Maybe next year. Actually, I would be shocked if he doesn't get hired next year.
I mean, who knows? The coaching carousel might not be over.
True.
I mean, this is a weird offseason.
That is very, very true. But yeah, I think Van Gundy got a lot of criticism for what he did in Detroit. He tried something, didn't work out. But I think he understands what the NBA is adapted to, and he won't try to go to the old NBA, hopefully. Just say hopefully. Because this is a good team that you cannot waste the prime of. You got to get the best out of this. Lonzo, I believe, is a free agent next year, and he's going to want to get money. Drew Holiday is getting up there in age. Zion, you can't waste his prime. But yeah, so I think it's a huge risk for him, but I feel like he might do a lot better than some people think. So that's it with the coaching carousel, actually. And we're going to finish this stream with one last thing, and that is a way too early. Well, maybe not that early because the season might start in a couple of weeks. But what's your way too early bold prediction for next season?
You talked about how Luka Doncic surprised you this year. I say it's going to be his time already to be the MVP next year.
I said the exact same thing.
Really?
I said the exact same thing.
Well,
I think it's his year. I think it's his year.
Yeah. I mean, Giannis has won it back-to-back. We know there's voter fatigue. And I don't know, there could be a renaissance with LeBron because everybody likes to love LeBron, but he's getting really old. I don't think he'll be as good as he was this season. But yeah, I think it's his time. Like I've said before, how I think the Mavericks were better than their record showed last year. I've heard reports that they're going to go all in terms of like a win now mindset. I think he's a great fit, dynamic duo with Kristaps Porzingis, and he's just fun to watch. And I think he'll put up even better numbers next year. And it's just his time, I think.
So I'm going to go one step further because I did have Luka win MVP. I'm going to have him win MVP averaging a 30-point triple-double next year.
Oh, wow.
Because he, like I said, he had 28 this year, 9 and 9. So I feel like he's going to take that step forward. And like you said, Giannis maybe rubbed some voters off the wrong way with his playoff performances. And that does play a role in some of these votes because as much as voters don't want to admit it, it mostly is narrative based. It's not really who the most valuable player is. It never has been for so long. But like you said, LeBron is always in the conversation. Who else we got? Kawhi, if he actually plays, could be in the conversation. Giannis, Luka. I feel like I'm missing someone
There's
there. Harden. That's who I was thinking of. Harden, he's always in there as well, and he puts up like 40 points a game every year. So yeah, I think Luka's going to have a 30-point triple-double next year and win his first MVP. So a quick little note for those listening and watching. We will be having a draft stream on November 18th. I believe the draft starts at 5, and if it does, we'll be streaming at 4:30 Pacific time. I think I said that right. And if the NBA goes through with their December 22nd thing, that free agency will be 48 to 72 hours after that. And we will have a live stream whenever free agent opens as well. So stay tuned and watch both of those because there'll be very good streams. We're working very hard behind the scenes to give you guys the best coverage we can. And it's not just be 3 people or 4 people talking about dumb things. We're going to actually give you guys some very quality insight, and it's be a lot of fun. You should tune in. You should also watch our old one that's on this channel from 2019 and 2018. You could see we have a lot of fun on there. Subscribe to this channel. We are, I believe now we're 11 away because we lost a subscriber. So we're 11 away from our goal of 50 by 2021. It's very doable. I think we get like 40 something views per video. So I feel like we should have at least 40. I feel like you guys are capable of doing it. I love the support from all of you. Follow us on Instagram at Ball Around the Head. Like us on whatever podcast thing you're listening to, Apple Podcast. Give us a review if you're on Apple Podcasts. And that's all we got. We will see you, I believe, Sunday, but that is subject to change. We'll let you know. Follow our Instagram page to find out. So thank you so much for watching, and peace.
Insert